You're listening to the Living Adventures podcast, a lifestyle podcast hosted by Ashleymielke and Victoria Vance. Tune in for a new episode every Thursday to hear our honest conversations about topics like freedom, creativity, spirituality, luxury living, health and wellness, and above all else, building community.
We have real and unfiltered conversations inspired by our search to feel connected to people who give a shit about us, support our dreams, and understand our struggles. Our mission is to provide you with the tools, guidance, and motivation to navigate any moment in your life with the lens of your neurodivergent mind, with a community who gets you. Adventure on. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Living Adventures podcast. It's Ashley and Victoria here, and I am not in Mexico with Victoria anymore. Sad, but we are super excited, me personally, to talk to you about all the ways 9 to 5 suck, but mostly why office culture is really bad for ADHD.
And more, honestly. I just thought of another thing to talk about, so we'll add that in about starting to own your own business as and not saying everyone, oh my God, Victoria, come on here.
We gotta do the vocal warm-ups that people do. Me.
Yeah, I do.
Red, yellow, leather, letter. Red, yellow, leather. Right, now that we're loosened up.
Another thing for us to talk about is starting your own business. And then I know you're kind of talking about this in your launch for Burnout Breakup, but I noticed this myself yesterday, and I made a funny video that I haven't posted yet of we start our own business and everything, but then you're basically still living a 9 to 5 life. Because then when you finish at 3, you're like, I can do more. My ADHD brain can do more. But then we're like, you can't take a break. You were never allowed to ever take a break. And so
I feel like this was a collective. We can talk about it really quick right now because I feel like that was a collective experience yesterday, because I also posted a video where I stopped working around 1 or 2 and I was like, I feel like I'm scamming capitalism. I feel like the capitalism police are going to come bang on my door and be like, you need to get back to work, lady. This is not how we run this system. And I'm like, and then there's also Elise Myers posted about how she was done at 1 or whatever. And I'm like, are we all just having the same day? Because I swear we're all having the same ADHD day today.
I was like, my brain worked so fast. I got so much done today. And I was just like, you should do more. And they was like, no, you should not, ma'am. You need to stop. So I was like, okay, we'll just leave so that I can't work. And so I did.
Genius. Yeah. But we'll dive into more how to process that, how to overcome those feelings and stuff. But first we have to dive into, obviously, the hyperfixations of the week, which is we haven't been apart that long. So I'm interested to see what yours is. Hit me with it.
I guess mine's not a continuation, but you were here for part of it in the beginning. I'm just having so much fun in Mexico right now trying drinks, fun drinks. I need an afternoon pick-me-up, and I need an afternoon razzle-dazzle drink. I need some sparkle, I need some flavor, I need some action to give me some dopamine and keep me going. And so I've been having so much fun since you left. Why didn't I do it? We did it a little bit. We started discovering new drinks and everything, but then I've gone even into a deep dive. I started to try all the San Pellegrino ones. You remember the San Pellegrino, it was the pomegranate and orange one? That is to die for. When you come back from getting that, it is so good. I went to I went to a restaurant last night because I was forcing myself to get out of the house. And they had this sick passion fruit cocktail. And it was basically passion fruit, tonic water, lime juice, gin. And I was just like, yo, that's such up my alley. But I don't really want to drink. And then I was like, what if I just order without the gin? I was like, will they do it? You want to know what the glass that and they were weirded out when they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, dude, that's what I want. He came back with what's the margarita with the beer in it?
The fishbowl time.
That glass. That's what they served me a mocktail in. But I was just like, I think I'm about to get drunk on passion fruit because I've always wanted this and never had this much. And I felt like a child and I felt fucked up from passion fruit.
That's so funny. I'm chocolate wasted. No, that's so true about afternoon pick-me-ups though. That's what, when I was staying with Victoria last week, I was like, it's 3 p.m. and if I'm going to keep going, like I need some spark in my life. And I feel like that's such a healthy thing, like of having like a fun sparkling water or something like that, instead of like, I feel like I'm sure as a kid, it was like you get home from school and you're like, I need an afternoon snack, because you would get home from school like 2 or 2:30 or whatever. I'm like, I need an afternoon snack. And like, maybe that was my ADHD pick me up. And now I'm an adult and it's like, where's my afternoon treat? I need a little treat.
And like, I mean, you also know this. I have icebreakers and everything because they're flavorful and it's like a sharp thing for your mouth. And like, you started having them too because you're like, I need a little something. And like, it's just great to like feeling everything, get yourself back on track. I think if you have a healthy relationship with food, you can use food for dopamine. And like, that could be a hard thing to get to, but it's possible. And I think like a mint is not necessarily food in that case.
Yeah. Or
but
water.
I always find them really helpful and I have them everywhere. I mean, I have like 4 cases of mints.
That's so fun. Yeah. Well, you probably can already guess what my hyperfixation is because I was talking about it the entire time that I was with you. The entire time I was in Mexico, I was like, Victoria, I can't wait to go play Sims. And all I did this weekend was play Sims. I built a duplex. I made an eight-person family. They have 2 dogs, or a dog and a cat. And the entire weekend, they just annoyed me. And Adrian listened to me scream at them for not listening to me. Like, no matter how many times I clicked things, they would just like disappear the action. So I'm like, and I had all these big plans for them. One Sim was going to become a YouTuber. Another was going to become an interior decorator. Another was going to become a gardener. Guess what? All 3 of those Sims are like, I think I hate my career path. And I'm like, come on, what the heck? And I'm like, what is the point of this if I can't be in charge? And like, Adrian's listening to me scream at my computer and he's like, I think you should stream this because this is hilarious. And I'm like, thank you for laughing at my pain. They're not doing what I want.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. What's it called? I was doing a TikTok live last week and I was talking, because I know you streamed once before, right? I don't know if you ever did it again.
Yeah, I did it once, but my computer's not a gaming computer, so it like wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. But then I realized if we get an Ethernet cable to Adrian's computer, I can stream when he's in law school. Like, because I'm gonna play. Like, I realized I like playing it a lot, and so I might as well stream it. And he has a gaming computer, so it's like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday when he's out of the house. That's my winter activity. I'm so excited. So that's
also can just help with the upload times and everything. Just get the Ethernet cable. I'm telling you. Is a bunch of people have always been asking me to stream and everything, and I'm like, you know, like I would do it. I would think it's so fun. And I'm like, what games would I do? But then I was like, yesterday I miss cooking so much. I mean, I guess a small other hyperfixation that I'm doing is there's this YouTuber that I found, and I've been watching a lot of his videos. He's called The Anti-Chef, and he's doing a series called Jamie and Julia, cooking through all of Julia Child's recipes and like learning, because he doesn't really know how to cook, so he's learning to cook through all those recipes. It's very interesting, a lot of mistakes. It's very funny. Honestly, I think it looks very ADHD brained, if I'm honest. And it makes me miss cooking so much. And like, I've tried to cook here and everything's just been really bad. I'm like, you know, I would cook on stream also. You know, maybe it's just not gaming, because I'm like, I feel like just gaming every day I would get bored. But I'm like, I could cook and do that. So it's in the future.
Yeah, that's what I think when it comes to like live streaming. It's like, how can you take something you're already doing and like make that the stream? Because then you don't have to do extra work. Like, if I know I'm going to come up with little projects and things to build in Sims, and I'm always like, I don't know what wallpaper to pick when I'm doing Dream Home Decorator. I wish there was a little community of people to be like, this wallpaper, that wallpaper. I don't want to make all the decisions. And I'm like, I should stream. That would be fun.
And I also think like with cooking is, I love cooking, but sometimes it's like, as with living by myself, I feel like I can't, not that I can't do it, but I'm like, it's fine. I should just do something small or whatever. And it's like, I miss doing big cooking things. Obviously, there's some things that need to happen for that to exist and everything, because I can't eat all the food. Yeah. But I literally, my life, I have just always wanted to run big dinner parties and everything. And so I'm like, you know what? I can also cook at a smaller level. And if I'm streaming it, I would have more
of the community
push inside of me to like cook like fun and different things. And so I want to get back into that. And
I will say,
I'll stream that one day.
Yeah, well, the day that we like cycled and my sister was in town and we all cooked a different part of the meal, like that was so fun. Like
that's so
like
fun.
Community, like having a group. And did I tell you my sister might move to Boston like officially in January? She's like looking at apartments.
Could you just come in December so I could like sleep on her couch?
That's so funny. She would let you if she was here in December. But yeah, like there's just something about having a community to cook with that just like, well, and it's like scientifically proven, like when you cook with people, it de-stresses you from your day. It ends the stress cycle, like all those things. And it really did. It's like such a wholesome experience. And I wish, like, I was talking to my sister, like we need more like in-person experiences where people can like feel that, which makes me excited for like our future plans for things that we're releasing outside of the podcast, because like community is everything, as you've heard us say a million times. And it's so true.
I'm so excited. I didn't say this to you, but I'm here to say this now. January, when we are in Arizona, we are going to be cooking, or I am going to quit cooking.
Fine.
And I am very excited. And I hope we're going to work hard and we're going to get a place with a great kitchen, and it's going to be fun. Because it's like, that was so fun. For those obviously you don't know because they were not there, but like, we cycled and everything. Sasha, Ashley's sister, wanted chicken Alfredo. Adrian was busy, he was busy doing homework. And so the three of us were cooking, and like neither of you knew or wanted to cook the chicken. And I was like, oh, I'm great at cooking chicken.
I was going to mess it up.
I'll cook the chicken. And then Ashley was like, great, I will make drinks. And we were just having mocktails, like something, I think it was pre-made that night. And then your sister made the sauce and the pasta and everything. And we just like all did a part and everything. Adrian did the dishes, and we just all had so much fun.
Oh, so much fun.
Everyone had a part to play. Everyone was playing to their strengths. Everyone was doing things that they wanted. Ashley doesn't like cooking, so she's like, I'm here to make your drink and to play the music. And that was fine.
Everybody has
and then Sasha wanted to do the pasta and the sauce, but didn't want to do chicken. I'm like, great, I know how to cook chicken really well. And it just all worked out, and it was just so fun. Yeah, I like those. Those are like my favorite things.
Yeah, no, it's very cute and very wholesome. And it's just so cool to have that time away from like screens where you're just like actually doing something, and then you can talk. It's not like you're just like, well, I love sitting around in a room and not watching anything and just talking too. But like, it's like, forced interaction, if you will, but in a really fun way. I don't know. It's really wholesome. A lot different than the 9-to-5 experience that we're going to discuss today, which is screen heavy if you worked in the time of work from home or even before that.
Yeah. Oh, before that, as a designer, it was screens 24/7.
True. Yeah. So Victoria, tell the listeners like how we came up with this topic, because I remember you telling me a story about one of your clients, and I was like, oh my gosh, and that led into this whole theme of this conversation.
Yes. So I had a client, it was a few weeks ago, and she was her company's completely work from home. But then once a year, they're having them come all together around the world, the States and everything, to go into the office, which is like an hour away from her house, and to basically have a week meeting and work and everything. I don't know. What is those called? Like, I don't know. Like just touch base with the entire firm. I don't know what she works at. Well, I do. Anyways, this first time going to the office since 2018, first time really going with that job and everything. And what she was scared of, like it being the worst part, was not actually the worst part for her. She was nervous about like her energy levels, how it would all go, like being really exhausted in the middle of the day. And then she goes in and she texts me halfway through. She's like, I literally cannot even think anymore. The lights are so bright. My eyes are in so much pain. It's giving me like a headache. It's not even the people. It's literally just the lights and the environment is the hardest thing for me. And I was like, that's so interesting, because it's like all of her fears were like pushed aside, and it was like something she completely forgot about because she hasn't been in that setting for so long. And she's like, it's all coming back to me. And I'm realizing like I never did any work in the office because my brain was in pain and everything. People would talk to me all the time. And it was just like such an interesting experience for her to go back during the few days that she had to be there and realize why that was such a horrible place for her.
Yeah, which reminded me of a story, which I didn't even process that, like, the lights could be overstimulating for someone with ADHD. And obviously I didn't know I had ADHD when I was working in a 9-to-5. But I remember me and my coworker, we had like a shared office. It was like 2 desks in basically a room. And we were both like, God, these lights are horrible. The fluorescent lights are not it. Same for us. Like, it hurts our heads. And so we brought in a lamp, like a floor lamp from somewhere, her house probably. And I remember, like, we would turn off the lights and only have the floor lamp on because it was much better lighting and we could focus better. And it felt like, I don't know, it made it cozy in there. It made it feel like homey and nice. And I had a blanket and a heater. I lived in Miami, so you make it make sense why I had a heater, but you know, they make those offices freezing. But yeah, and I remember, like, not like no one directly said, hey, you shouldn't do that. But the looks that we got for setting up our office that way were very discouraging. Very much like, and like when people would say things about it, they're like, oh, is that what you're doing? Oh, that's interesting. Like, very much like judgy, because they're like, that's not how we do things. This is not how the world works. Like, that's not professional. Like, whatever things that they wanted to say because of societal standards. And I was like, that's so dumb. Like, that story reminded me of how dumb it was that people reacted to that. And like, imagine if I knew I had ADHD and I was like, well, this is something I need. Like, now you can't judge me. They still would have. They still would have.
Yeah. And it's funny because you saying that, it's like my entire childhood, I had that experience, and like at home, like the lights would be painful and everything. So like I told my mom that at a young age. And then when I started complaining about it, my brother complained about it too. And since we both have ADHD, then we just had like an entire lamp house. And then with my mom being a therapist, she was like, oh, maybe it's impacting my other clients who have ADHD. So she made her office completely lamp. She doesn't ever use the overhead lights, and she also tries to get offices with more like natural light so she doesn't have to like use it as much. And she's like, my clients are experiencing better, like my kids are happier. And now that my mom hasn't been in that atmosphere for so long, she went to a place a few weeks ago and she was like, oh my gosh, my eyes hurt so bad being in them. And it's like, my mom is a neurotypical, and she is realizing, because she's been in that atmosphere for so long, how bad it is. And it's like, I think we're just a lot more sensible or have issues with it. Like we feel it
sensitive,
faster. Sensitive to it. There we go. And then like other people, like if they then are in that atmosphere, then are exposed to what we hate, is they will be sensitive to it too, which is interesting.
Yeah. And I never thought about this, like, cause obviously I didn't know I had ADHD, but like one of the things that is an absolute requirement when I get an apartment is I need good natural lighting. And at first I was like, it's for the YouTube videos or the TikToks or whatever. But like, no, it's because when I work, there are no lights on in the house. Like, I have a ring light on right now to record this, and every other light is off. Every light will stay off. And I just get light from the windows, even though the sun's not out today, you know? And like, that is so important. And I never thought, oh, well, it's because the overhead lights are offensive and overstimulating and they cause me to like feel uncomfortable. Weird.
I mean, when Ashley was here, she had a call later, like on the first night, and I was figuring out where the lights are to get the light where she's, because I don't even ever turn the lights on. Like, I literally use one light, and I figured where that one was, and that's like the only light, because I just don't ever have lights on. And it's nice that way. And I will say, if there's a teacher listening, the greatest thing a teacher ever did with like lights, and was so helpful for my brain, and I know everyone else is in the classroom because everyone like applauded her for this, is if you teach in a setting where you turn off the lights and like put on a movie, this teacher would basically say right before she turns them or turn off, is she would say, I'm turning off the lights. And it just like helps your brain cue for that and to get ready. Mm-hmm. And then when she would walk over and turn the lights on, she's like, I'm turning the lights on, and like gives like a second and then turns them on. And it was so much less painful. Everyone loved it. And so if anybody wants to take that, please do, and save everyone's lives.
I love that. I know. And so I wonder what other parts of like the physical office environment are harmful or agitating to the ADHD brain. Have you seen anything else with your clients?
Yes. So open offices are really bad, or open concepts are very bad for the ADHD mind. And it's actually so funny. because my senior year of college, I went to art school, and so we had studio spaces. And somebody in my class, who I think she has ADHD, funny enough, changed the entire concept of the studio to open concept. It was a closed concept. And so then, great, now senior year, I can no longer work in my studio. And so I turned my apartment into a studio, and I set all of that up because I physically was unable to work in that atmosphere. And a lot of people felt that, but like in the design world, everyone's like, well, we need to be very open concept to help collaboration and everything. Yes, that's the great idea of it, but it's been proven time and time again how unhelpful that is and how distracting that is.
It's so distracting.
It's so horrible. And any office that does that, I struggled at so much. And I just could not ever focus in those atmospheres. All of my clients say the same thing. And so like working from home, you have your desk set up in a great way where it's facing a wall and like your desk is in the middle. I know your apartment's set up, but it's helpful for my clients to not have their desk pushed against a wall. And so that they have too much space behind them, even though as if you're watching a video right now, I obviously have that set up because that is just digital nomad life. You can't really control everything.
Yeah.
But it is very helpful to like shorten the space so that you feel more like secluded in a way to like be able to work more efficiently. Other things is setting time to not have others to distract you and say like, I need some time or whatever. Sometimes if you work in offices that like you could like book out a meeting, almost like a library space. I know like there's conference rooms. I have had clients who will go and work in a conference room for an hour so that people aren't running to their desk and distracting them. That's obviously if you work at like a bigger company. Smaller companies probably won't have that. What other things are there?
Well, I will say, based on what you think, my desk setup, it's funny that you mentioned that because like my desk is in what they call in feng shui, a command position in my office. And this actually happened when I first started working from home with Adrian. My desk, we were working together because we were both working from home. My desk was up against one wall. His desk was up against another wall. We kind of created an L. And I always felt really uncomfortable and I couldn't figure out why. And it was like his mom would walk in and out to get things from the printer and like be behind me. And it felt weird that someone was behind me. He would be behind me. He like could see everything I was working at. I was just like, this is like not vibes. This is not it. I'm not comfortable. And I started watching videos on feng shui and like the importance of it and how to like put your desk in the right place for that. And like, that's how I ended up like feeling it. Like even when I was working with him, our desks ended up looking so weird because I'm like, no, my back is going to face the wall. My desk is going to go in the middle of the room. You can do whatever you want with your desk. Obviously, if you don't know me, now I have my own office. It's only my desk in here. My desk is in the middle of the room. It takes up all the space. This is just an office. There's a wall behind me. And it makes me feel like in feng shui, like a command. Like I feel like I'm in charge. I feel like powerful here. I like that I can see my door to my office. I like that I have the window light coming in to the left of me, and it really does help me focus. And that's one thing whenever I was working with you, like I felt like I was like, wow, I can't wait to get back to my desk. And I think it is because of like what you're saying, like you were working open concept.
And that's why you'll find me working more over on the couch because there's nothing behind me. And so I always think it's really funny is in schools, if you're in an IEP program, they'll always try and place you at the front of the classroom for ADHD so that you don't get distracted. That to me is the most distracting spot in the world because now I don't know everything that's happening behind me and I will be constantly looking behind me. I actually need to be placed at the back of the classroom. Fighting for that was the hardest thing in the world and none of them wanted to ever understand me. And it's so true that like I need all of the action if there is action to be had in front of me. I do not want it behind me because then I will not be able to focus. I need to see everything that is happening. And so that's why like you having that and then the door here is like everything that is happening will be in front of you. Nothing will happen behind you. And like not being able to see things happening behind you if they are can cause a lot of anxiety internally and just not allow you to focus. And so that's why I actually like I'll say to some of my college students that I've worked with, like, sit in the back of the class or try it out, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can finally focus. I'm like, yeah, no, I could never focus in the front of the class. Even though that's the number one thing said, I cannot do it.
Yeah, that's so weird. I wonder what actual research they have to back that up. Probably none. Somebody probably just made that up. But the other thing too about open concepts is I think most of the jobs I've ever worked, I worked in marketing, sales, and PR. And so like that's very much also like creative and collaborative, always open concept. And even recognizing my ADHD now, when I have a thought and I'm focused on something, I get so agitated when someone disrupts me because I'm worried it'll go away. Even like when Adrian comes into my office and I see him come in, I'm like, do not say words. You cannot say words right now because I'll lose the thought. And it's like, as a creative, especially in what I do now in creating content, I'm like, this thought is gold. Nobody take this thought away. But I remember working in open concepts, people would come in and they would distract me or ask me questions. It was like, there always was a permission slip to disrupt somebody no matter what they were doing, which is really, really frustrating. And I probably would have recognized even more why it was frustrating if I knew I had ADHD back then.
And so I helped a client in a concept coaching call a week or two ago. She was having so much disruption throughout her day. She's actually working from home. And so this is helpful if you're working from home, and it can also transfer into a work office as well, is setting up her schedule so that she has sectioned periods of just focus time for her. So for her, she's switching between like mornings and afternoons. And so a morning block on Monday, she'll take that as like her time to focus, do the work she needs to do. And then the afternoon, she'll be available for a call. She'll be on what's the green light thing on like Microsoft or whatever that like people can contact her or whatever. She's not on do not disturb, but like in the morning, she'll be on do not disturb. And that way she is completely able to focus for herself. And then the afternoon, she's available for disruptions and all of her calls and everything. That way she's not doing as much task switching, and she can focus on those tasks at hand. And so like to do that in a work setting is, again, like putting yourself on do not disturb from emails, and your if you can. I know some jobs you're not allowed to put yourself on do not disturb for emails. Some you can, or if you can ask your employer, boss, whatever, if you can have like an hour or two a day to have it on do not disturb and not have to reply, and ask for like a longer reply time during a certain time could be really helpful. And then basically setting yourself up for a space, if you can, if possible, or asking for a different office space in the office so that you have less behind you could be really helpful. And yeah.
Or just follow my advice and quit your 9-to-5 job like everyone, like I think everyone should do, because I hate 9-to-5s. I think they're toxic, but you can also be toxic to yourself as business owners. And it's funny that you mentioned how you help your clients schedule things, because one of the most important things, very first things I ever do with clients, I don't care if they're coming to me for one-on-one or like, especially if they're in burnout breakup, is we literally look at their calendar and we're like, all right, it's time to structure this, because a lot of business owners take calls on whatever days, they work on whatever when it comes up. And that is so harmful to productivity and your brain, ADHD or not. And I actually started doing this. I read this book called Deep Work by Cal something. We'll put it in the show notes. But it was really interesting. And it talks about how our brains function the best when we don't do task switching, when we focus heavily on one topic, one task for an extended period of time. So what my clients and I do is we basically theme their days. Like, for example, Mondays are content days, Tuesdays are client days, Wednesdays are innovation days when you're focused on the future of your business, whatever. And then within that, we create deep work times. So a lot of clients, if they're trying to like use time blocking and put things on their calendar, they might do like, oh, well, like 10:30 to 11, I'm going to do emails. And then this time to this time, I'm going to reply to clients. And it's like, instead of doing that, we take those themes and it's like, what if from 10 to 12, you just did marketing, whatever marketing means for you, creating content, doing TikToks, whatever. And that allows you to go deeply into those tasks, especially as a business owner. And then like me at 1 p.m. on a Monday, you can be done for the day because you were deeply working, especially via ADHD. Like, that's a superpower. You can deeply work on those tasks for 2 hours, get so much done and be done for the day, which is how people who are burnt out start to get their time back. I have so many clients who come to me, they're like, I can't even see how I could breathe. I'm working 12 hours a day. And I'm like, it's literally like these really smart shifts in your productivity, in how you're managing your time, that give you so much time back. And some people are like, oh, hire team members or do this task manager. And it's like, no. It's like, start with your time and how you're dedicating it.
And it's like what you're going off of is true, because basically the way our brains work, and I know even if you do work in an office setting and you don't work for yourself, is you will feel often that you can get all of your work done in 2 to 3 hours. You don't need the 8 hours. And so it's like, yes, so let's use that to your advantage. You know, in the morning, let's get set, or whenever you work best, because some people work better in the afternoon, some people work better in the morning. It depends if you have to take care of children, whatever, is set aside a 2 hour, 3 hour block. Like I wouldn't do anything more than 3 hours, and just focus on like a subset category of things like marketing, or I don't know, like future planning, or like back end thing, depending on whatever you do for your job. And give yourself that, and then do your meetings later in the day. Do other things later in the day. That way you at least have your section, because you know, oh, it takes me like 2 hours to get this stuff done. And like, if I just sit down and do that, I could do that. And obviously we have to work on setting you up for that, for setting up that success. But that can basically break down your time and give you so much more time, and not feel like you are being pulled in every direction. Because if you have a meeting and then you have an hour and then you have another meeting and then have another meeting and then you have 30 minutes, it's like you're not getting stuff done in between the middle time, because our brain is, after the meeting, you'll be slowly like thinking about, oh, well, then I need to do that. And then I need to do that. And then it's going to be so much time wasted about processing the meeting possibly before you can go into the next task. And so that's why it is most beneficial to block out times that you can just work in and then have your meetings later. And sometimes, I will say this, it's a slight toxic thing, but also not fully toxic. If you have something that often causes you a lot of nerves in your job, I block out a bunch of meetings beforehand so I can't have nerves. So it's like, I was supposed to do a public speaking thing this week, and so I set up a ton of calls on Thursday afternoon before, so I don't have like anxiety time.
That's so funny.
But that's also like, I have worked, I mean, it's not like a ton of calls. It was like 3 calls before, and then I had like 45 minutes for myself before. So it's not like it was like call, and then exactly the thing, but I also had the morning to myself. And so,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, everybody works differently, and if that's how you work, that's important. And I think it's so important, something I work on with my clients, is understand how you work. Like you said, some people are going to do better for themselves in the morning. Some people are going to do better thinking I do not like client calls in the afternoon. Like, my brain is usually fried. I do it sometimes for clients who I really like, but I would rather get everything important done in the morning. And I think the other thing you mentioned is like, you have to have time to process after a call. Like, after every call, I have at least 15 minutes, and I take that time and I sit down and I write things down. What do I need to do? What did I think? What do I need to journal about later that I'm discovering? And if you're a life coach too, or any kind of coach, like, a lot of times what happens in your client sessions is like, yes, your clients get a lot of takeaways, but you get takeaways too. And you're like, oh, that's a good content idea. I didn't know a lot of people were struggling with that. Or, ooh, that triggered something for me because I'm struggling with that too. And like, you just have these things that you do need to process, and you can't dive into the next task. This is why a lot of times I tell my clients, like, do all of your own stuff for yourself on a singular day. If you're a business owner, you have this kind of control, and focus on your clients on a day. Like, do a day where it's only about your clients, because then you're not stressed out about the deadlines you have for yourself. For example, when I was creating my course 9 to Freedom, like, that was so many modules I had to record. It's like, I think 6 now, like 10 or something ridiculous, like, modules of different videos. And I was so worried and anxious about getting it done. It was such a big project, but something that gave me a lot of relief was dedicating Thursdays to recording those modules. No client calls. All I was doing was focus on that one big project, which meant on Monday, when my anxiety came and like, Ashley, you're not going to get this course done in time. You're going to launch it and nothing's going to be done. I could be like, guess what, anxiety? We're super good over here, because I worry about that on Thursdays. And that, like, structure gave me so much peace of mind.
Yes, I have this with my clients. I make them do 1 day a week where they don't have calls, and so that they can focus on the large tasks that day. And often it's Wednesdays. A lot of companies I find with clients have a Wednesday no call policy anyway, so it's easy to implement for yourself that day, and also ask like, oh, can I have like a do not disturb day so that I can really focus and get like these larger things done. Most companies will say yes, like without even like thinking about an ADHD way. I think it's about like the way you frame it, but having a no call day is so helpful so that you can just stay. And also it's pre-planned. It's like every single week, it's not changing if possible. If it does have to change, that's okay. Like, let's pre-plan that out. Something that we've also done, and I got from Ashley, and I made a post about it, and a lot of people were ecstatic about the thought, is we now do 3 weeks on for client calls, and then we take a week off. And so this is helpful in so many different ways, which is one, I can then take that week and just work on back end stuff or like a program planning and just do that all week so that I'm not stressed out about other things. Another thing is planning vacations. I will not ever plan a vacation. It is so hard to do that when you're owning your own business, and especially in my life, because I don't have like, I mean, you have a husband that works a 9 to 5 job-ish kind of structure. Like, I don't have anybody in my life to provide me time of like, oh, most people are taking time after this time. And so not having that, I forget that myself. And so having it already in place and not having to go and cancel the calls, if I have to cancel the calls and do the work to make myself have a vacation, I will not do that. I know myself. And so having a week already planned that I basically don't have calls helps me then be like, okay, I'm going to take that week off, or I'm going to take 3 days in that week off. I don't even have to take the whole week off or whatever, or maybe whatever I want. That already gives me a permission to take a break.
Yeah.
And to not have calls.
Yeah. Here's my anti-hustle business model that I live by. One, Monday and Friday, I will never take calls. I will never take calls on purpose, like routine calls, like clients you're going to meet with every single week. One, as we learned from our last podcast recording on Friday, my brain doesn't really work as well on Fridays because I go really hard at the beginning of the week. But also anti-hustle culture, build in your vacations. At any given time, I can have a 4-day weekend if I want. At any given time, because I'm not scheduling anything on Monday and I'm not scheduling anything on Friday, which is why for me, Wednesdays end up being innovation days, like you're saying with your clients, where I don't take calls because it's like Tuesdays and Thursdays are for clients. Wednesdays are for me. Monday and Friday, I do whatever I want. Usually I don't. Well, sometimes I work, but I have the freedom not to. And like you said, like I never work the 4th week of the month. I never have client calls because that gives me the freedom to take a mental health week if I want, go on vacation, see my parents, do things that I normally wouldn't get to, de-stress, like have a lower level of work. And it actually started because, well, one of the coaches that I was working with was doing it, but also like whenever my cycle would start, I would be like in such emotional state and like feeling so sad or feeling just so reactive that I was like, I just need a time to decompress and not speak to the world and not feel pressure to record videos or be on camera or any of those things. And it is so helpful.
Yeah, I know you don't have PMDD, but a lot of ADHD is high comorbidity rate. I said that right. I think I said that right.
Yeah, you did.
PMDD or PMD, I think is the other one. There's 2 of them. High rate with ADHD. And so like that can be really helpful if you own your own business. And there's some other things you can do if you don't own your own business, and like trying to ask for like a lighter week during like that time that you have a really hard time fluctuating your hormones and just don't have the energy levels and everything. It can be really helpful for people struggling with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting to think about because I know we were talking about like initially like the ways office culture is bad for ADHD. And I think it's funny because in the same ways you're running your own business can also be bad. Like I know you mentioned it's like hard to take vacation as a business owner. And like one of the things I hate about 9-to-5s is like it's so hard for my husband to get days off, and like the rules about what days you can have off and when you get them, even if you have the time saved, it's like I want to lose my mind because I want to go on vacations. I can do whatever I want. My clients I'm at the point where I have great enough clients that they'll understand when I have vacation time come up or days off, but like his company doesn't. But on the flip side, a lot of business owners straight up never take vacations, never prioritize themselves, don't even think about going on vacation. And this is literally what causes burnout. Like I didn't go on vacation for 2 years and I burnt myself out into the mother effing ground because even if I did like go to Miami or go to places to visit family, like I was working while I was there. I was working in between events. I was working at the evening, like all of those things. And like, that's not okay either. And so like, yes, office culture is bad, but like, I think the overall thing that's bad is the hustle culture, the grind culture, the fight for your dreams and get as much success as you can culture, instead of like figuring out ways to enjoy what you have now. And the greatest thing I ever realized is like, I'm in this business for the long run. So it doesn't matter if I take a week off, like I'm going to keep doing this and the success I'm looking for is going to come.
And I think like that's a great mindset to be in. And what also helped me is like with making that strategy, and like I didn't bring it up to you, is like my therapist was saying this at first, and she runs her own business. She is not like working under another practice, but her husband does work. I actually don't know what the hell he does. I don't need to know. He works a 9 to 5 though. And so she's like, I take breaks. Like I have 4 weeks off a year. And she was like, I want you to start thinking about your life. Yes, you own your own business, but you like, what is a vacation policy for not even a place in America? She's like, America does not have good vacation policies. Let's think of like Europe. How many days off do they get a year? How many sick days do they get? How many personal days do they get? How many weeks of vacation do they get? How many have you given yourself? And I was just like, none. And she was like, yeah, I give myself 4 weeks minimum every single year. She was like, you have seen me say for years now, like, oh, that week I'm on vacation. That week I'm on vacation. You need to choose your weeks. And I was like, but that is so stressful. And she was like, okay, then we need to figure out a plan to make it easier for you not to have to cancel things. And then like you saying that, like literally like had an appointment, next day you were like, oh yeah, like the 3rd week. And I was just like, you know what, that's it. And then I told her the next week and she was like, I think that's a great policy, adopt that, do that. And I was just like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, I'm going to do that and everything. And then I like rewrote my contract that week. And then every client I've signed after that, I've done that. And it's just giving myself a permission, and also like understanding, I think with setting up our business, it's so hard at first. There's so many things you have to figure out. You have to get your license. You have to do this. You have to do what, blah, 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 blah. And like, I mean, with online also too, it's hard because then you're like, everything is content, but not everything is content. And having to remember you need to give yourself like a policy, and you don't have to give yourself a strict policy. I think keep it open, but keep it available and remind yourself to take those. And also having, that's why community is helpful again, is having people to help you and remind you to take those as well.
Yeah, it's so funny because like literally this week, or I guess last week, since it's Tuesday and haven't had client calls yet this week. But last week I was talking with a client who is going through like my whole burnout breakup process. And one of the things we talked about is their vacation policy. Like, what does that look like? And we were talking about the pros and cons of like, okay, it's only 4 weeks a year or 2 weeks a year, or like, what does that look like? And one of the things we were talking about is like, they want unlimited vacation because they want to be able to take mental health days when they need it, take a weekend off when they want to, and all of those things, and like have that defined. But then they were like, but the hard thing about unlimited vacation, and I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs like assume is their policy. They're like, yeah, I have unlimited vacation. I can go whenever I want to, but they don't take it. And that's the thing. So they set up a policy for themselves where like, I have a mandatory, I'm going to take at least 2 weeks off by this day of the year. By this day of the year, I'm going to have those 2 weeks of vacation used. Or if I'm not by that date, that's when I'm going to schedule the vacation, because they want to go on vacation at least 4 weeks of the year too, like your therapist. And the other thing is I have clients who they shut down their entire business December for all team members, for all employees. They're like, no one is working in December. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy your family. And I think when you come at it from that perspective where you know what day you're going on vacation, you know you're shutting down your business for a month, the rest of the year and leading up to it, you start to prepare things to make sure you have it covered. And I think a lot of business owners struggle with, you know, planning out their sales and their launches, and it feels like you don't have a lot of control over how much money you're going to make, but you can have control over what you're doing and when you're doing it, so that way you get to a place where you are comfortable when you're taking those vacations and you're not working, you're actually taking time away.
And like, as we're finishing up this conversation, I want to make this last point is, this is also, even if you don't own your own business, because I know there's people who also have work at another place and you have vacation policy and everything, and I know you're not taking it. Because I remember one day when we were sitting at the dog park, and Andrea, I don't think she's going to listen to this podcast, so I can say her name. She works at a nonprofit, and she was like, yeah, no, I don't think I can really take vacation time. Like, my company really needs me. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. That's the horrible mindset to get in, is like, your mental health does not matter. You matter. You matter. I want that to be said. Take the time for you. And it can be also helpful. I don't know why I'm seeing so many things on TikTok right now of like planning out vacation time for you to get like the most time with like taking the least amount of days off and using your things wisely. And I'm like, this is so fucking toxic. But I mean, like they're doing it for like to get yourself like the longest vacation and everything with the holidays set up and like how to do it. I think there is a reason that's happening in America because we do not have enough time off. But I do want to say is do not live in a scarcity mindset of not using them all. Also, too, is if you need to pre-plan them and everything and like plan out at least like 6 months of vacation time or 3 months, like so that you know that you have it, do that for yourself. Sit down and actually do that so that you do not have to take it at the last minute or anything. And so that you can actually take it and you can feel good. We live in a society, we live in a society that is like, don't take it though. Take it.
Take it up. Dude, Adrian has worked at his job for 2 years and he's going to be taking his first vacation in December. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? Like, obviously he's taken days and we gone on weekend trips, but like actually having weeks away from work. And this poor guy is in law school. So he is out of the house from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. doing full-time work and full-time law school. And he has not taken a break. I swear, if he didn't tell me he was a god, I would think he was unwell because there's no way a normal human could handle that and not have a little a little mental breakdown.
And I don't know how he was doing it last year while also raising Max, because I was outside with him at 4 and 5 a.m. every single day, and we'd let Bo and Max play to get like the first morning energy out so that I could maybe go get like an hour of sleep while he was getting ready for work. And I'm like, I do not know how this man is living right now. Like,
I don't know how he's alive. I was like,
I want to die. And he was like, yeah, no, I want to die too. Like, not in just a way of so sleep deprived. Yeah. And I was just like, how is this man standing on his 2 feet right now? Because I am not. I feel like I'm going to sway backwards and I'm drunk right now.
No, and I don't get it. I never knew. He's not the example that we should follow. He is the anomaly. You need to take vacation days, especially when you're in high pressure, high stress situations. One of the reasons why people get burnt out is because you can close stress cycles and go work out at the end of the day and feel relieved from working all that you want. But a lot of times what people burn themselves out because they're in chronic stress situations that they cannot end, right? And so if you're like, for example, Adrian's in a chronic stress situation. He is constantly in stress, working, studying, going to class, writing papers. Like that is stressful. And you have to take time away from that to allow your body to recover. I don't understand how he doesn't get sick more. But like I said, he's the exception to the rule.
That will cause heart issues later on in life.
Maybe his cholesterol is messed up. I remember his cholesterol was high one time as I exposed my husband's medical information. But then he stopped eating McDonald's for a week and it went back down. So
his diet is not the greatest, so that's a big
he's on a mission to die before me, and I think it's freaking rude. But anyways, yes, take vacation, whether you own a business or not, and like take mental health days. Like yesterday I was having a little mental health moment and I was like, I am having the worst morning ever. Everything is making me mad and I need to process why. And so I took the first half of the day and I didn't work, and I'm like, wow, like to be at a place where if you don't have to fake it till you make it and you don't have to smile and put on a show for everyone is so empowering. And I used to have to fake it till I made it. I used to have to go into work, put on a smile, deal with your emotions later. I actually listened to this really good podcast episode. Well, it's not a podcast episode, but it's a lesson inside of the To Be Magnetic program. It's one of the supported classes, and they talk with this dietitian, and she basically built these archetypes, and there's basically 4 archetypes for women on like where you find your self-worth and where that leads you to store fat on your body based on that worthiness. Yeah. And like one of them is like the Wonder Woman, and she's like finds her she finds her worth through success. And I'm like, wow, that's so relatable. And she pushes away her feelings so she can be successful, which is often what I end up doing is I'm like, shove the feelings aside. We must be successful, which leads to burnout. And that's what I had to do in my whole entire career before I started a business. Shove the feelings aside. But now I get to feel the freaking feelings. I can put work aside to feel the feels. And I'm like, that is so cool. That's where I have a
whole worksheet on where that plays out inside your body. I can send it to you if you want. Yeah. No,
send it to me. I think I'm going to get this lady's book. Yeah. It's and I'm so interesting.
All right. And so let us know if you have more stuff you want us to talk about on 9 to 5 and
work culture,
issues of work culture and ADHD. Let us know if you relate to this stuff. Let's get into client stories of the week. What about you, Ashley?
Okay, my client, I had a bunch of client stories this week. It was really hard to narrow it down to one, but I have some clients, and I think this gives you a good insight into what coaching is about if you've never experienced any kind of life coaching, business coaching, ADHD, health coaching, whatever, is a lot of times, like, I can build out a framework for my clients of like, okay, this is what we can kind of expect us to do on each of our calls. But sometimes clients come and they're like, well, I don't really know what I'm struggling with this week. I don't really know what I should use this call for. And I think that often prevents a lot of people from signing up with coaching in general, because they're like, I don't know what I would talk about. What will we work on? And it can feel really overwhelming. And so the client came to the call and I'm like, we're going to do a what's wrong, let's fix it kind of call, where basically you pinpoint one area of your life that isn't exactly your dream life and we fix it. And I don't care how small it is. And I think it gives us a lot of permission when we do that to recognize where things aren't awesome. Because I think in the fake it till you make it kind of sense, a lot of times we are going into life thinking, I'm happy for what I have. I should be grateful. You know, I'm exactly where I need to be, or like just bypass how we're feeling so that way we feel okay with where we're at. And so I think that's important to recognize. And so basically for her, we were talking about her sales calls and how she wanted more sales calls to close. And it was interesting because the reason why her sales calls was closing is she thought she was doing a bad job handling money objections. But actually what was happening was she was attracting the wrong people in the beginning, because like, I'm like, you want to live in a world where people get on a call and they're ready to pay you, and you don't need to convince someone to give you their money in any situation, whether it's a job, a business, whatever. And so we actually had to go all the way back into like, what is the messaging you're saying? And what are you doing to attract the people who are getting on your calls? Are you very clear about who this is for and all those things? But I think the two lessons here are, one, like, you are allowed to be unhappy with any area of your life, no matter how small it is, and give yourself permission to improve upon it. And two, the thing that you think is the problem is often very rarely the actual problem, and there's layers to the things that we go through.
Oh, that is so true. What we often think is the problem is not the problem. And I will agree with you on that. Whenever I have concept coaching calls, the first time they schedule them, they are always like, oh my gosh, why didn't I schedule this sooner? And often, like, then we have to change what they are coming for that conversation to working on perfectionism, because they're like, oh, this problem wasn't big enough. This problem wasn't perfect enough to come to you to help solve the problem. And it's just like, no, we now have to work on that before we can work on what you wanted to come and work on today that you thought was bigger, because that's the actual giant issue.
Right.
That is also feeding the problem that you're coming here for.
Right.
And so that goes to both context of like not feeling like our problems are big enough and like we should just like push them aside, as well as like perfectionism of our problems and how that shows up. Yeah. Can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
I had a fun client. I'm having so many good client sessions. It's actually like hard to choose. But I had a really fun session yesterday, actually. And so we have been working on boundary setting with this client, building confidence with that, building confidence within herself and finding out what she wants. And we found some great expanders for her and great people to feel comfortable with and actually like are doing what she wants in relationships, but also like in their careers and everything, which is helpful. And so she has been working the past month on boundary setting, and first like over text with somebody that she wasn't that close to, but needed to. And then she started to do it in person 2 weeks ago and realized like, I don't like how that actually went. And she first thought it went well, but then asked herself right after, like, that didn't actually make me feel good. And then like realized all why it didn't make her feel good. And so now she's making even more further decisions based off of all of that. And she's really getting in tune with asking herself, how did that make me feel? And getting comfortable with that and getting comfortable sharing that. And she's doing it to now people who are closer. I think it's really helpful when you're starting to set boundaries to not do it to the people who are extremely close to us, because like that can be a giant shift and it can be really hard. And so building confidence with like, not that the other people didn't matter, but they weren't as close, they weren't as big figures in her life. And so doing it with smaller people to grow the confidence of doing that and just taking the small baby steps to get comfortable with it. It's been really great watching her do that and succeeding in it. And she's getting really great.
Aww, that's so cute. Yeah. That's so awesome. Yeah, no, setting boundaries is huge. It's one of the things I talk about with burnout breakup is like, you have to know how to set boundaries, or that's how, if we go back into work culture, how you overwork yourself, how you overgive, how you overuse your emotions to compensate for what other people are going through. Like, there are so many different levels to why you need to set boundaries, and you're right, it can be so hard. And I think it's funny that she, like, not funny, haha, but like funny, interesting, that she set the boundary and was like, oh, I didn't like how that went. Because I think a lot of times, like, if you're not ready to set a boundary because they're like on a subconscious level, maybe you don't think you're worthy of setting that boundary yet. Like, there's so much inner work we have to do before you can set a boundary and feel good about it. But it doesn't mean, if we come back to perfectionism, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go ahead and set the boundaries. Let it be messy like she did, and then be like, why didn't I like that? How can I set a stronger boundary? How can I do that more confidently? How can I embody my highest self, my self-worth, all of those things? So I think that's beautiful.
And like, we have been doing all of that, and like, we tried to set boundaries earlier and it went really bad, and I was like, okay, we gotta stop, take a pause on this and do some of this inner stuff. And then she started doing it again, and now she's having this success.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I get it now. And she's like, she sent me a message. She was like, what do you think about this? And I was like, what do you think about this? She's like, oh, right, got it, okay. And then she goes right into it.
I love that.
And it's just like great to see her grow her confidence in all of these situations. Yeah. And respect her own self-worth, I think.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Everyone deserves to, not just her.
Everyone deserves to feel worthy of the things that they want and setting boundaries. And I think it's interesting, a lot of times we can see the action we need to take to change something, whether that's in your office and you need to set a boundary there, or you need to change how you're running your business or whatever. And all of that, you can make those decisions and feel like it didn't go well because your inner world isn't right first, which is why I think it's so important to work with like coaches, maybe like us, who understand how to navigate the inner workings of your world. Because once you have that foundation set, like, that's your stability. I think so many people look for stability in their business, in their job, in their finances, in their partners. And that's always going to be shaky ground. You can lose your job at any time. Your business can have high months, low months. Who knows what's going on in your partner's mind? But if no matter what happens in your world, you can't be shaken, because you know you're worthy, you know your assets, you know you're strong, like all of those things that we want to feel about ourselves. You are set up for so much success. And I think that's the power in working with coaches is, a lot of times people are like, well, why would I invest this money? Why is this important? But our clients literally see, like, they walk away. I always say this, my clients walk away feeling so much more confident in themselves. And what that really means is nothing can shake their internal world. And that is like priceless, baby. Priceless. So I think that's really
priceless. Cool. Because like last week was a rough week for me. I'll be honest. And a lot of tests were put my way. Felt like being pulled in every single direction. I had no idea what was going on. I was so annoyed with every single thing. And I was like, okay, this is not okay. I need to deal with all this stuff. I'm going to go to one or two people that I trust right now. And I know I'm going to get the information that I need to make the decisions and to like say what I need to do and set the boundaries and do whatever I need to do from these two people. Went and did it with success. A few other things came my way, and like things kept piling down, but I didn't lose confidence in myself. I was like, it's okay. Every single thing is going to work out right now. I know that like things are looking like absolute shit right now, but I'm like, I literally am not even stressed about it. I even texted Ashley yesterday. Even more happened yesterday. And I was like, that's fine. Like, literally, come at me. It's fine. Because it's all about to shift right now. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw up while taking out the trash, because I already threw up just smelling the trash. Guess what? I took the trash out without even throwing up. Like, I can handle anything. And, like, that's a massive thing for me, if I'm really honest. But, like, in my business, like, everything can go to trash. I don't care. I know I'm secure in myself that everything's going to work out right now.
Yes. Yeah. And we were texting yesterday. We were both like, it's weird to feel so peaceful in the chaos, like when you once like searched for chaos and that's where you found stability, and you're like and maybe this is an ADHD thing too, where you're like, oh, I thrive under pressure. Right. And it's like, but do you actually thrive? Because I don't think most people thrive. I think they flounder. But when you shift your internal world, you get to the place where chaos can happen and you're at peace. It's like anything can fall in my lap and I'm going to navigate it. And like you said, I'm going to come out on the other side stronger with the things that I want.
I think I I do thrive under pressure, but I think it's different. It's putting yourself under pressure to thrive versus when pressure comes to you and the security to still thrive. So it's like, think Max eating raisins, chocolate, everything. We knew we would come out on the other side. We were like, Max is a freaking champ. He is a dump truck. He can handle it. We will get it out.
We can
this
handle
man just
it.
drank
We can handle it.
hydroperoxide. Like, this man just drank it like it was nothing. He didn't even care. And I was just like, we've got this. We've got this. And we didn't even question it. We didn't question our confidence within ourselves. We knew the resources we needed. We knew the numbers to call. I mean, once we got out and had service and everything, and we just aced it and we just did everything we had to do. And we were confident within ourselves that we could solve the problems. I'm confident in myself that all of the problems presented to me in my business right now, that it's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, everything's going to work out. I know what I need to do, and I'm continuing to do what I need to do, and then it's all going to happen.
Right, versus like that is like pressure that we thrived under versus you creating chaos in your life and like searching for chaos to take action, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm going to procrastinate on deadlines until I'm sabotaging myself and I have to take action, or I'm going to start fights, or I'm going to play the victim and I'm going to be woe is me about the world. So I have that pressure to thrive. I think that's like where a lot of people like can operate from versus feeling truly at peace in pressure because you know you can handle it, even if it's coming from external sources.
Yeah. External pressure versus internal pressure, and you like shaming yourself. So like, because the reason why we often do this with ADHD and like how it becomes a learned behavior is because our frontal lobe develops later or is often underdeveloped with ADHD. We will use like our amygdala to like, which is where you get all of your emotions and everything from, and we will use shame to do that, to force yourself to do things. And that is also can go into how people treated you, and it's like a bit of a trauma response, which trauma is very popular with ADHD. And so you can learn like, oh, if I shame myself, like, I'm disgusting, you're a horrible person for not doing the dishes, it's been like that for 4 days, are you kidding me? Now there's an ant in my house, like, you were disgusting. And to do that, to do the dishes, like, that is not productive, that is not helpful, and that is like horrible to you. You wouldn't talk about that to another person. Do not talk about that way for yourself, please.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Oh, stay tuned. We're going to do a goal setting session where we're going to talk about how to navigate healthy ways of activating tasks and how to actually set goals in a way that's super productive. But I think that's it for today's episode. We've hit a solid hour for you all. So as we wrap this up, we will see you next week for another episode. Please subscribe, please leave a 5-star review and leave a little comment. Let us know how you feel. Follow us on all of our socials and, you know, message us and tell us what you think about things. And if you have podcast episodes that are questions that you want us to talk about in the next episode. Okay, that's it for us. Anything else?
And have a great week, everybody. And take your vacation time. Take your vacation time, everybody.
Take vacations. You are worthy. All the things. Bye.
Bye.